In the heart of a dense forest, where the shadows danced with whispers and moonlight filtered through the canopy like shards of silver, there dwelled a family unlike any other. The Delacroix family was no ordinary lineage. They were cursed with a bloodline that stretched back centuries, tainted by the mark of lycanthropy. Each member carried within them the dormant beast, awaiting the call of the full moon to awaken and unleash its primal fury. Generations had passed since the curse first befell their ancestors, a dark legacy whispered about in hushed tones among the villagers. It was said that the Delacroix manor, nestled deep within the woods, held secrets darker than the night itself. But those who dared to venture near its imposing gates often met a fate far worse than mere curiosity could fathom. At the helm of this accursed family stood Patriarch Vincent Delacroix, a man whose eyes held the glint of ancient secrets and untold horrors. His wife, Eleanor, bore the burden of the curse with a grace that belied the savagery that lay dormant within her. Together, they raised their children within the confines of the manor, sheltering them from the prying eyes of the outside world. But despite their efforts to keep their dark inheritance hidden, whispers of their true nature echoed through the forest, carried on the wind like a haunting melody. Villagers spoke of strange sightings beneath the light of the full moon, of howls that pierced the silence of the night, and of livestock found torn asunder with no trace of the culprit. Among the Delacroix children, there was one whose thirst for freedom surpassed all others. Adrien, the youngest of the siblings, possessed a wild spirit that yearned to roam the forest without restraint. His amber eyes held a glimmer of defiance, a spark that threatened to ignite the dormant beast within him. One fateful night, as the full moon cast its eerie glow upon the land, Adrien slipped away from the confines of the manor, heedless of the dangers that lurked in the shadows. His heart pounded with exhilaration as he raced through the dense underbrush, the cool night air stirring the dormant beast within him. But as the moon reached its zenith and the transformation began to take hold, Adrien's euphoria turned to terror. The agonizing pain of bones shifting and muscles contorting ripped through his body, tearing a primal scream from his lips. In that moment of agony, he understood the true weight of the curse that bound his family to darkness. As the last vestiges of humanity slipped away, Adrien surrendered to the beast within him, embracing the freedom of the hunt. Through the dense undergrowth he prowled, his senses attuned to the slightest movement, the faintest scent of prey. But as he stalked through the shadows, a sense of unease gnawed at the edges of his consciousness. There was something lurking in the darkness, something ancient and malevolent that stirred at the edges of his perception. And then, in a flash of moonlight, he saw it, a figure cloaked in darkness, its eyes gleaming with a hunger that mirrored his own. It was another of his kind, a creature of the night who prowled the forest in search of blood. With a snarl, Adrien launched himself at the intruder, his claws slashing through the air with deadly precision. But as their bodies collided in a frenzy of teeth and fur, a voice echoed through the depths of his mind, a voice that spoke of prophecy and ancient vendettas, of a destiny intertwined with the very fabric of the forest itself. And so, as the two werewolves clashed beneath the watchful gaze of the moon, the true nature of the Delacroix curse began to unravel. Secrets long buried in the depths of the forest were brought to light, and the fate of the family hung in the balance as the darkness closed in around them. As the two werewolves battled beneath the moon's unforgiving gaze, the forest seemed to hold its breath, the very trees trembling with anticipation. Their snarls echoed through the darkness, mingling with the rustle of leaves and the distant howls of unseen creatures. But even as Adrien grappled with his unknown adversary, a sense of recognition flickered within him, a fleeting glimpse of familiarity that sent shivers down his spine. There was something about the stranger's scent, something that stirred memories long buried beneath layers of primal instinct. As their clash intensified, Adrien found himself driven by more than mere survival instinct. There was a deeper force at play, a primal urge that whispered of ancient alliances and forgotten loyalties. With each swipe of claw and snap of tooth, he sought to unravel the mystery that bound them together, to uncover the truth hidden within the depths of the forest. And then, in a moment of clarity amidst the chaos, Adrien caught sight of a shimmering pendant dangling from his opponent's neck, a pendant identical to the one his mother wore, passed down through generations as a symbol of their cursed lineage. Realization dawned like a bolt of lightning, illuminating the dark recesses of Adrien's mind. The stranger before him was no mere interloper, but a long-lost member of the Delacroix bloodline, a sibling thought lost to the ravages of time and fate. But before Adrian could utter a word of recognition, a deafening roar shattered the stillness of the night, reverberating through the forest with primal fury. From the depths of the shadows emerged a third figure, larger and more imposing than any Adrian had ever seen, a beast whose very presence seemed to warp the fabric of reality itself. As the newcomer's gaze fell upon Adrian and his sibling, a sense of dread washed over them like a tidal wave, sending their hearts pounding in terror. For in those eyes burned a hunger that transcended mere survival, a hunger born of ancient vendettas and the unquenchable thirst for vengeance. With a guttural growl, the newcomer lunged forward, its massive form eclipsing the moonlight as it bore down upon them with savage intent. Adrian and his sibling fought side by side, their claws and fangs flashing in the darkness as they struggled to hold their ground against the onslaught. But as the battle raged on, Adrian couldn't shake the feeling that they were mere pawns in a much larger game, a game whose rules had been written long before they were ever born. And as the shadows closed in around them, he knew that the true test of their strength had only just begun. As the ferocious battle between the Delacroix siblings and the imposing newcomer raged on, the forest itself seemed to recoil from the violence, the very air thick with tension and primal energy. Branches snapped and leaves scattered in the wake of their savage blows, each clash echoing through the night like thunder rolling across the sky. Adrian fought with a fierce determination born of desperation, his senses honed to a razor's edge as he sought to outmaneuver his formidable foe. Beside him, his long-lost sibling fought with equal fervor, their movements fluid and coordinated as they danced a deadly dance beneath the moonlight. But despite their combined efforts, the newcomer proved to be a relentless adversary, its strength and ferocity unmatched by any opponent they had faced before. With each passing moment, the odds seemed to tilt further against them, the weight of destiny pressing down upon their shoulders like a crushing weight. As they battled on, Adrian's mind raced with questions that begged for answers. Who was this mysterious newcomer, and what dark purpose drove it to seek out the Delacroix family? What secrets lay buried within the depths of their cursed bloodline, waiting to be unearthed by the light of the full moon? But before Adrian could dwell on these questions for long, a sudden movement caught his eye, a glint of silver amidst the chaos, fleeting yet unmistakable. With a surge of adrenaline, he realized the truth. Their adversary was not acting alone. From the shadows emerged a figure cloaked in darkness, its form obscured by the shifting mists of the forest. In its hand gleamed a blade forged of silver, its deadly edge poised to strike with lethal precision. With a sense of dread that chilled him to the bone, Adrian realized the gravity of their situation. They were not merely fighting for their lives, they were fighting for the very survival of their bloodline, against enemies whose motives remained shrouded in mystery. And as the battle reached its climax, with claws and fangs bared and blood staining the forest floor, Adrian knew that the final reckoning was drawing near. For in the heart of the darkness that enveloped them, he sensed the presence of something far more sinister, a force that lurked in the shadows, waiting to reveal itself in all its terrible glory. As the chaos of battle reached its crescendo, Adrian's senses heightened, his every instinct screaming at him to beware. Amidst the clash of steel and the snarls of combatants, a chilling realization dawned upon him. They were not alone in the forest. From the depths of the shadows emerged figures shrouded in darkness, their eyes gleaming with an otherworldly light. They moved with a fluid grace, their forms weaving through the chaos like wraiths summoned from the abyss. Adrian's heart pounded in his chest as he beheld the spectral apparitions, their presence sending shivers down his spine. He could sense the malevolence that radiated from them, a palpable aura of ancient power that threatened to engulf them all. But even as fear threatened to consume him, a defiant spark ignited within Adrian's soul. With a primal roar that echoed through the night, he rallied his siblings to stand firm against the encroaching darkness, their resolve unyielding in the face of overwhelming odds. With each passing moment, the true nature of their adversaries became clear, a coven of witches, practitioners of dark magic whose twisted desires sought to ensnare the Delacroix family in a web of deceit and betrayal. Their motives remained shrouded in secrecy, their dark rituals fueled by an insatiable thirst for power. As the battle raged on, Adrian and his siblings found themselves locked in a desperate struggle for survival, their every move countered by the cunning machinations of their foes. Spales crackled through the air like lightning, their deadly tendrils seeking out their targets with unerring accuracy. But amidst the chaos and carnage, Adrian glimpsed a glimmer of hope, a flicker of light that pierced the darkness like a beacon of salvation. For in the heart of the forest, hidden beneath layers of enchantment and illusion, lay the key to breaking the curse that bound their family to darkness. With renewed determination, Adrian and his siblings fought on, their spirits unbroken despite the overwhelming odds. For they knew that their fate was intertwined with the destiny of the forest itself, and that only by confronting the darkness that lurked within its depths could they hope to emerge victorious. And so, as the battle raged on into the night, Adrian steeled himself for the final confrontation that awaited them all, a confrontation that would determine not only the fate of the Delacroix family, but the very balance of power in the world beyond. As the night wore on and the battle reached its climax, Adrian's senses were overwhelmed by the cacophony of chaos surrounding him. Spales collided with claws, steel clashed with fur, and the air crackled with the energy of primal forces unleashed. But amidst the turmoil, Adrian's mind remained focused on the elusive truth that lay just beyond his grasp. What dark secrets lay buried within the forest, waiting to be unearthed by those brave enough to seek them out? And what role did his family play in the ancient feud that had plunged them into this deadly conflict? As he fought on, his thoughts turned to his parents, the guardians of their cursed bloodline, whose own pasts were shrouded in mystery. What secrets had they kept hidden from their children? And what sacrifices had they made to protect them from the darkness that threatened to consume them all? With each passing moment, Adrian felt the weight of responsibility pressing down upon him, the burden of his family's legacy bearing heavily upon his shoulders. But even in the face of overwhelming odds, he refused to yield to despair, drawing strength from the bond that united him with his siblings in their struggle against the forces of darkness. And then, as the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, a sudden stillness fell over the forest, a hushed silence that seemed to hold its breath in anticipation. The combatants paused in their deadly dance, their eyes locking in a silent truce born of mutual exhaustion and wary respect. In that fleeting moment of peace, Adrian felt a surge of hope flicker within him, a glimmer of light amidst the shadows that threatened to engulf them all. For he knew that their battle was far from over, and that the true test of their strength lay not in the fury of combat, but in the courage to confront the darkness that lurked within their own hearts. As the first rays of sunlight pierced the canopy above, Adrian made a silent vow to his siblings, a vow to uncover the truth that lay hidden within the depths of the forest, and to break the curse that had haunted their family for generations. And with that solemn pledge echoing in his heart, he prepared to face whatever trials lay ahead, knowing that their destiny was inexorably intertwined with the fate of the world itself. As the first rays of sunlight bathed the forest in golden light, Adrian and his siblings stood on the precipice of a new dawn, their spirits buoyed by the promise of a brighter future. But even as hope blossomed within their hearts, a shadow fell over the horizon, a harbinger of the tragedy that awaited them. For as the sunlight banished the darkness that had gripped the forest, it revealed the true cost of their struggle, a cost paid in blood and sacrifice, in lives lost and dreams shattered. Among the fallen lay their parents, Vincent and Eleanor Delacroix, their lifeless forms cradled in each other's arms, their faces etched with the weariness of 1,000 lifetimes. With a cry of anguish that echoed through the silent forest, Adrian knelt beside them, his heart heavy with grief and regret. In their final moments, his parents had made the ultimate sacrifice to protect their children from the darkness that threatened to consume them, a sacrifice that would haunt Adrian for the rest of his days. As he gazed upon their lifeless forms, a single tear trickled down Adrian's cheek, carrying with it the weight of a lifetime of pain and loss. For in that moment, he realized the true cost of their struggle, a cost measured not in victory or defeat, but in the bonds of love that had sustained them through even the darkest of times. And so, as the sun rose high in the sky, casting its warm embrace over the forest once more, Adrian and his siblings mourned the passing of their parents, their hearts heavy with sorrow and regret. For though the battle had been won, the scars it left behind would linger for eternity, a reminder of the price they had paid to secure their freedom from the curse that had plagued their family for generations. As they gathered their fallen comrades and prepared to leave the forest behind, Adrian vowed to honor his parents' memory by forging a new path, one free from the shadow of the past and guided by the light of hope and redemption. And with that solemn promise burning in his heart, he turned his back on the forest that had been both his sanctuary and his prison, knowing that the journey ahead would be fraught with peril, but determined to face it with courage and resolve. And so, as the Delacroix siblings disappeared into the dappled light of the forest, their footsteps echoing faintly against the earth, they left behind a legacy of courage and sacrifice, a legacy that would endure long after their own story had faded into legend.